Alright, so the last part of 6.3, half angle identities. We have 3 of them. They're right here. Sine of u over 2, cosine of u over 2, tangent of u over 2. Okay, so an example, if I wanted to find the sine of 22.5 degrees. We don't know the sine of 22.5. However, we know the sine of 45 over 2. We could find the sine of 45 and divide by 2. Consider 22.5 as 45 over 2. And according to Carl, we know that the sine of u over 2 equals plus or minus the square root of 1 minus cosine u over 2. Okay, so we have a plus or minus. We could figure out whether it's positive or negative right away by looking at the original. Is the sine of 22.5, is that going to be a positive answer or a negative answer? The sine of 22.5. That's what we're trying to figure out.
Positive.
Good, positive, because 22.5 is in quadrant 1, sine in quadrant 1 is positive. So our answer is going to be positive. So we can ignore the negative and just use it as a positive. So we need to figure out the square root of 1 minus cosine
45.
of 45, because my u is what goes on top. Very good, Aiden.
Yep.
Over 2, and I chose the positive one. Okay, so that's half of the work. Half of the work is setting up the problem. Now we just have to evaluate and simplify. Alright, so cosine of 45 is, well, 1 square root of 2. What's the cosine of 45? 1 over square root of 2. Good. And it actually, it's better to choose square root of 2 over 2 just when we're trying to find the exact answer, because we've already rationalized that denominator. You were going to say that? Okay, so our next step is complete. Now that is our answer. We just have to clean it up. We've got a fraction inside of a fraction inside of a square root. So let's get rid of that little fraction. I'm going to multiply the top and bottom by the common denominator, which is 2. So if I distribute, I now have 2 minus the square root of 2 over 4. That's a confusing step. Did you follow me?
Yes.
2 times 1 is 2. 2 times this, those are going to cross off. And you're just going to be left with the square root of 2. Alright, so then you would maybe check the back of the book and it's not the answer. We still got a little meat left on the bone. I recognize that 4 on the bottom, I could do this. Like one of the properties of square root of a fraction, you could take the square root of the top over the square root of the bottom. And the square root of 4 is 2. And that would be the exact answer for the sine of 22.5. Might as well check. So if this were a quiz and you had access to a calculator, you could check to see if you did it right. I'm in degrees. The sine of 22.5 is that. And let's see if that's what, oh, you can't really see it here. Okay, let's see what the square root of 2 minus the square root of 2 divided by 2 is. Feeling pretty good about our answer. As long as we simplified it right. Alright, so why don't you try one? see if you can do once you find the cosine of 157.5 degrees. See if you can make some progress with that. Okay, so if we're struggling with 157.5, we clearly don't know the cosine of 157.5. If you double that, you get how much? 315. Good. So we're going to first write it as 315 over 2. And then using our Carl, what would our u be? Cosine of u. This u is something that we should know the cosine of. So our u is 315. You might want to write that. U is 315. So the next step would be to grab the formula and figure out whether it's going to be positive or negative. All right, gave you a little bit of time. The really important question was, how do we know if it's positive or negative? So let's go back to what we're originally finding. We're finding the cosine of 157.5. 157.5 is in what quadrant? 157.5. Second quadrant. We're trying to find if this is 157.5 degrees, is the cosine going to be positive or negative over here?
Negative.
It's going to be negative. Cosine is x value, and it's in the second quadrant is going to be negative. So our answer is going to be negative. We're going to choose the negative square root. So then cosine of u over 2, we're going to do the negative square root of 1 plus cosine of u over 2, and our u is 315. So we just have to figure out what that is. I'll pause it and give everybody a little more time here. Alright, 315 degrees, that is way over here. Oh, it's another one of these 45, 90s.
Yep.
This one is positive, this one is negative. 315 degrees produces a 45-degree reference angle in quadrant 4. So the cosine of that would be 1 over square root of 2 or square root of 2 over 2. So our answer is going to be, like you said, Ashley, it's going to be really close to what we just did in the previous problem. So 1, and it's positive 1 over square root of 2, so plus square root of 2 over 2 over 2. What did we have before? Oh, we had a minus there. Now we have a plus, all right, and a minus out front. All right, but our common denominator, top and bottom, is 2. So I'm going to multiply the top number. So I have negative square root of 2 plus the square root of 2 over 4. So that square root of 4 on the bottom can just become 2. And we have our answer. Anybody get that? Nice. Half the class or so. Yeah, Aiden, you had a question?
Why do we have to make the change it to a 2?
Why do we have to?
Oh, because
Yeah, square root on the bottom, I guess. Yeah.
Is that negative on the top or the bottom?
It's either. It's just the negative quantity. You could put it right in next to the fraction sign too. Alright, so that's the end of my half angle video. We're going to do just one other double angle example. If you want to keep watching and participate, you can. Let's see. What do we want to do? Let's say our sine of theta is negative 4/5. And the cosine of theta is negative 3/5. And I want you to find the sine of 2 theta And we'll also do cosine of 2 theta, and might as well do tangent of 2 theta while we're at it. So using this information, you're going to have to draw your triangle, use your double angle formulas, and see if you can find sine 2 theta, cosine 2 theta, tangent 2 theta. Give that a try. Now, we don't need English.
That's too much work. I'd have to like talk to my counselor or
Yeah, that is a lot. I'm much gooder in math.
remember.
Alright, so sine of theta is negative 4/5. Cosine of theta is negative 3/5. That tells us that we're in quadrant 7. Well, technically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You're not 100% wrong, but
So good at this.
I'm so good at this. You're thinking outside the box. So sine of theta right there is negative 4/5, and the cosine is negative 3/5. There we have it. So sine of 2 theta we know is 2 sine theta cosine theta. Carl taught us that. So it's 2 times sine of theta, which is negative 4/5, times a cosine, which is negative 3/5. We didn't even need to draw the triangle because sine of theta and cosine of theta are given to us. So let's see, 24 over 25? How many got that? Alright, a handful of people. Cosine of 2 theta, we've got 3 choices. I'll just do cosine theta minus sine, cosine squared theta minus sine squared theta. So cosine theta is negative 3/5 squared minus negative 4/5 squared. Negative 3/5 squared is 9/25 minus, and then negative 4/5 squared, that's going to be a positive 16/25. So it's 9/5 minus 16/5, which is negative 7/25. And we could use the tangent of 2 theta identity if we wanted to. Double angle for tangent is 2 tangent theta over 1 minus tangent squared theta. We could figure out the tangent. That would be, what is the tangent of theta here?
Negative 4 over negative 3.
So negative 4 over negative 3, so it'd be 4. Yeah, so the tangent of theta is 4/3. So if we used our formula, it would be 2 tangent of theta over 1 minus tangent squared theta. So it's 2 times 4/3 over 1 minus 4/3 squared. So 8/3 over 1 minus 16/9. Ugh. I like.
How do you do this all in your head?
So I get 8/3 over 9/9 minus 16/9 is negative 7/9. And then a fraction divided by a fraction is the same as multiplying by a reciprocal. So 8/3 times the reciprocal, which is negative 9 over 7, negative 72 over 21. If 3 goes in there 24 times, and it goes in there 7. So negative 24/7. The long way.
How do you do that in your head?
Oh, it's just math.
He's been doing it for 50 years. What do you
Yeah, I've been a teacher for 73 years.
Complicated math, you just start to forget the basics.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so that's the long way. Short way would be the tangent of 2 theta is sine of 2 theta over cosine 2 theta. So we could just say tangent 2 theta equals the sine of 2 theta over the cosine of 2 theta. I'm going to move that down here. A little bit of room. So sine of 2 theta is 24 over 25 divided by the cosine, which is negative 7 over 25. So 24/25 times the reciprocal, so negative 25 over 7 gives us negative 24/7. And that's what we got the long way too. All right, so yeah, you bring up a good point. Like the trig stuff, the angle stuff, that's half of what we're doing now. What's the other half?
What we did before.
It's like simplifying square roots, you know, simplifying fractions, evaluating all sorts of different things. So yeah, I am testing your algebra and your simplification skills.
When are we gonna calculate the area of the cone?
Area of a cone?
Yeah.
Well, are we including the base of it? Like the bottom of the cone?
No.
The circle on the bottom? So the lateral area of a cone is pi r L, or L represents the slant height of the cone. We could do that
Well, I thought you had to use calculus for that.
no. And